Hello and welcome to For the Reds. Today we are debating everything to do with FSG. The Twitter meltdown fan base tearing itself apart. But we're trying to do it in an adult way. We're trying to do it in a civilized conversation rather than jumping on the spaces and having everyone scream at everyone. I thought I'd bring two level-headed people online and we're going to discuss it from sort of like both sides of the argument. So, I suppose it's called the FSG OUT corner. We have Damon. Damon's from the Liverpool Transfer Room. He hosts their spaces. He's on their podcast team and he also does a lot of writing for them. And he's a good mate of mine. And then another mate of mine, we've got Ian, who's frequently on the RedMenTV. He doesn't want to be branded as this, but he is, for the purpose of the video, fighting the corner of sort of like top Reds and FSG in. So, welcome, lads. Hello.
Nice to be on, guys. Nice to be on.
Good stuff. So, obviously, for those that are watching, whether they're watching live or they're watching the recording after it, I thought first I'd throw it to you to go over the term of top Reds, because there'll be people out there that don't necessarily know what the term a top Red means. And I think, to be fair, to some of us it means something else, and to others it means something different. So I'll throw it to you, Ian. For what is the term top Red for you?
A top Red for me is what people give to people who they think the club can't do anything wrong. Like, you're not allowed to, like we say, you're not allowed to criticise the club, which is total crap, by the way. You are. Just do it in a adult way, you know what I mean? I think, I'm not sure whether it's still in there, but I actually call myself a top Red now in my bio, just to annoy people.
Yeah.
Because it's mad, mate. It's just a social media thing. And for me, that's what it is. People who don't consider themselves top Reds will consider other people top Reds. They consider them people who think that you cannot criticise the club or anything they do or any of the players or the manager.
What about you, Damon? Because I know you've got some views on this. Because like, I think Ian makes a really good point there about it's about being that, you know, you cannot criticise and things like that. But top Red seems to have took an evolution of a form now on social media, doesn't it?
It's sort of an entitlement, isn't it? It's a weird analogy. It's a weird brand to use, top Reds, because if you think about it, the word top is sort of it's putting a label on it, and it's making it like an hierarchy sort of thing. And you know, for a fan base that's completely against hierarchy, to have an hierarchy within the fan base, that is the most deluded thing ever. You know, it's such an hypocritical thing to have in the fan base. And you know, these players and this manager and this board can be criticised, whether, like, you know, anytime, but you know, they're not the human beings, yes, but the players, the football players, the football managers, and they're in a job where criticism is going to happen. And if they can't get criticised, then they'd be in a job, you know, would have the same manager and same players for years and years if they didn't get criticised, because they wouldn't be forced out of the door. So having the term top Red for people that don't want to criticise the thing, I think we should get rid of the terms top Reds and bottom Reds, because we're all Reds. It's as simple as that. We're all Reds, and have that sort of label on someone, it's like they're looking down on the rest of us, and it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like that. Whether you're from Liverpool, whether you're from, you know, India, whether you're from Australia, people commit their life to this club different ways. Whether you go to the game every week, whether you're in a different country where you got to wake up 2-3 o'clock in the morning, which is, you know, ridiculous at the time. You know, where I'm live, you know, I'm from Yorkshire, but I grew around Man United fans and Chelsea fans. The stick I've had to put up with throughout my life. It's all right for scouts to say, you know, we go and and we from the ground and things like that. We go to the ground, but you don't have to put the stick when you get home. You've got Everton fans who've got no foot to stand on anyway, or fellow Liverpool fans. I've been around Man United fans and Chelsea fans my whole life, and the amount of stick I've had to endure for 90s, 2000s, you know, to stay loyal to this club, I think it takes a lot. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot more than what it's just, you're just 5 minutes down from ground.
I think you make a good point about the hierarchy thing as well, and like, because I want to swing this back to this top Red versus bottom Red and all that nonsense, and FSG out versus FSG inners, and whenever I hear people of the sort of like the extreme sides, they feel like their protest towards FSG being out and, them wanting to go to the game and hold the banners and things like that is because they want what's best for the club. So if they deem top Reds as people who are blind faith and all they want is the best for the club regardless, surely then FSG out people should be classed as top Reds. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, if we're going to brand it as like, well, top Reds just want a blind support and they want the best for the club, like, regardless of what the decision is made, but they're saying like, well, we want the owners out because that's best for the club, then surely everyone should just come under the same brand as a top Red, or in reality, everyone should just come under the same brand as Liverpool supporters.
We all want the same thing. We all want Liverpool to be successful. We all want Liverpool to be the best team in the world. The difference is people go about it different ways, and people want the solutions we want. They want us to come around different ways. It's people want it now. I lived through the 90s, mate, when we were awful. We were getting beat every other week, or we weren't getting so. I was still going the game. I was still supporting Liverpool. So I've been like that. People talk about Liverpool like we've had this continuing success for like 30 odd years, and that wasn't the case at all. That the tide started to turn once Gerard Houllier came in. I think Houllier came in. He took it on with Rafa. Rafa had success, as in he won the Champions League and the FA Cup, but it wasn't like we weren't winning a trophy every single year. That wasn't happening. That's revisionist history.
Yeah.
Then what happened is when that came in, Rafa went. Then we had another barren spell where we had Hodgson and Brendan Rodgers, and the second time Dalglish came round, and nothing changed until for the way we've got it now, until Klopp come. Like, to win all those, I mean, I know we're not winning trophies every single year, but to win the trophies we've won under Klopp, when you compare it to what we've done for the past 25, 30 years, it's crazy, and people seem to think that we have an entitlement to do that. I want us to win trophies every year. I do. I want us to be at the top, but I also know that when you've got the likes of Man City round and Chelsea round spending all that money, and when United are on the game, when United are on the ball, this is the toughest league in the world. You've not just got one team to come up against every season. You've got 2, 3, 4. Look at Arsenal this season. Nobody would have thought Arsenal would have been doing what they're doing this season, and no one would have thought Newcastle would have doing what they do this season. So there's no divine right for us to be at the top of the table and winning trophies. And seasons like this, you have your bad seasons like this. The important thing is next season, we pick ourselves up, dust ourselves down, and we're back to the Liverpool, the Klopp Liverpool that we recognise from. Don't forget, we played every single game you could last season, and we never did that at full pelt. I thought for the last 2-3 months of the season, we looked like we were struggling. We just about got over the line. I think that's why we never got the big ones in the end. So there's no divine right to be the best. And we do, when people are crying out for midfielders now, we should have signed one this month. It doesn't like we're going to do what we should have done, but we definitely need to do it in the summer, and it needs to be because we never started early enough to evolve the midfield and reset it. We're going to have to do like a full reset in the summer. We're going to have to do like a revolution of the midfield in the summer, which I don't want to upset people, but it might give us another season like this again if you've got 2 or 3 midfielders to bed in.
I think it's an interesting point about that divine right, because people from the outside looking in, when they do see that, the people who are demanding signings and demanding like constant success and stuff, will maybe see it as that. Well, it's not a divine right; it's just ambition. So I throw that one to you then, Damon, because I get Ian's argument about there is no divine right, because there's no divine right at all in sport, regardless of how much money you spend, because it's human nature, things can happen. However, spending more money and having more ambition would equal to more success. So do you have sympathy with the sort of the not the protesting, but the campaign towards FSG needs to change its ways. We need to be spending City's money, Newcastle money, that kind of thing.
The thing is, we don't even need to be spending Man City and Newcastle money. We just need to be spending a little bit more than what we are.
Yeah,
that's the problem. We always left one or 2 free players short every single season. You don't need your £100 million players. Like Matheus Nunes went for 35 million this summer. Is now what, 55 million. Enzo Fernandez were about 10 million 2 years ago. It's about planning and getting the right transfers at the right time. We shouldn't be going into this summer now needing 3 or 4 midfielders. This shouldn't have been a hit. We should have been updating those midfielders last 1-2 years. Every single, whether it's summer or January, there should have been at least one midfielder coming in. We knew Fabinho were getting older. We knew John Enson were getting older. We knew Thiago was old already. We knew Milner's basically on bus pass age. We knew this. We know exactly. We know Keita's, got a packet of crisps as 2 legs. So we know this is going to happen. So it's whether we get sanctioned further transfers or not. Regarding the success of the last 12 years as well, 12 years of FSG, we've won a Premier League, a Champions League, an FA Cup, a League Cup, Club World Cup, and obviously Charity Shield, Super Cup. 12 years before, we won UEFA Cup, a Champions League, 2 FA Cups, a League Cup, and Charity Shield as well. In fact, I think we won 2 League Cups, actually, thinking about it. Yeah, we won, I think we won 2. Did we win 1 or 2? We won with Dalglish, didn't we?
Were they in when were they in when we lifted the one with Suarez and Dirk Kuyt? Were they in?
I'm trying to think.
League Cup, FSG were in there. When it was 2012,
I think we've won 2 League Cups both times, but we've also won 2 FA Cups within the 12 years before. So the only difference between the 12 years of FSG and the 12 years prior to FSG is a league. And we won an extra European Cup and an extra FA Cup the 12 years prior. So when we look back at this with the best manager we've had since Bill Shankly and Bob Paisley, is it really as much a success as the 12 years prior to FSG? I don't think it's that much of a difference, apart from a league title. But we were starved that league title. Won it for. I've never seen in my lifetime. I've never seen us lift it yet. I just missed out on that cusp. So, as that league title take it to a different, that one league title taking it to a different level of success than 12 years prior, I don't think it has.
I think
it's better, much more successful, but not a completely different level.
It's definitely a fair argument. I mean, I personally, sitting on the fence, I'd say, well, we've had 2 seasons where we finished a point behind. We had the Suarez season, obviously, where we nearly won it. We've had 2 Champions League finals in there where we've lost it. But again, there'll be moments in the past 12 years, the 12 years before FSG that we forgot where if little things had gone our way, we'd have won it. Because, again, that's just sport, isn't it? It's the way that it works. So it's a very good point, and it brings us on to our next topic of that FSG out. Now, in the past, I mean, you've got people like John O'Sullivan who proudly say that since day one of FSG coming in, they've been FSG out. How you can gather that opinion from day one, I'm not too sure. However, there is people that say, well, no, we've been FSG out since day one. But this past 2 to 3 months since that statement, it feels bigger and bigger and bigger. And again, I'll throw it back to you, Damon, because I know you're a bit in that category of, wanting them to move on now. Why do you think it has grown bigger? Do you think the statement has just give people the license to go on the attack, or do you think there is a more of a general feeling now of like, well, no, it's time?
I think it doesn't help with the performances on the pitch, does it? And it doesn't help with the performance on the pitch and the sudden. Yeah. But looking at those performances on the pitch, there's a reason for it, and that's because we haven't refreshed, the midfield. We kept adding Sakas and things like that. But if you look at the last 4 or 5 years, we're playing pretty much the same team every single year, and it don't work like that. So Alex Ferguson didn't become trophy after trophy after trophy, playing the same team every year. He switched it up. He got rid of players that he didn't need, and this is what we're. Well,
that was his motto, wasn't it? His motto was one starter every window. Every new season, you go in with one brand new starter.
Exactly
that was his motto.
Exactly that. But he's just left that 1 player, 2 players short every single summer, every single transfer window, and it's not good enough. And it's got to the point now where the sell to buy policy worked for the development side because we could take chances, and plus we had Michael Edwards. Let's not forget Michael Edwards. The lad got like 25 million for that Dominic Solanke. Julian Ward can't do that now. Michael Edwards was a magician, and he is the way he could get money in for sell to buy. Worked under the FSG, but Julian hasn't got that sort of that wand that Michael Edwards has. He's okay, but he's not Michael Edwards, and he ain't going to get 25 million for Ox. He ain't going to get 30 million for Keita to pay for those transfers. So the sell to buy thing now, it's outdated. It's completely outdated. It worked but when you're at the top, look at Arsenal now. Look at Arsenal top at league. No reason to strengthen really, but they have done. They're looking to get Caicedo. They've got Trossard in. We never did that at the top, and not only that, we hadn't done it for years at the top. We only spent really big that one sum after selling Coutinho, and we'll find ourselves where we are now because of that. It's as simple as that. It can't be more. And it's down to FSG not sanctioning transfers and not giving the right money. We're making enough money.
Do you think it becomes hard then to defend that, Ian? Because I think Damon has a good point about strengthening from a position of strength. After we won the Premier League, I believe it was Sepp van der Berg and Adrian were our two signings. I believe as someone who tries to have a balanced opinion, is it hard to sit in that middle ground when you do see things like that?
I'll disagree with Damon slightly there, just because I don't think that was the important window. I think the important windows we've missed on was from like 2020 onwards. I think that was when we should have started evolving the midfield. I think we're good up top. I don't think we need to do anything with the strikers. I think the problem we've got is Jota's injuries and Luis Diaz's injuries. They don't happen this season. No one's complaining about our attack. But what should have happened about, like I said, from about 2020, it was blatantly obvious that the Keita's body could not handle whatever we're trying to do with him. So he should have been moved on. Ox, the same. I'm questioning now whether Henderson should have been given that big bumper contract. But I look at Henderson and I feel a little bit sorry for him, only because he shouldn't be playing the amount of games he's playing now, because Naby Keita should be playing them games. Oxlade-Chamberlain should be playing them games. But that is down to mistakes of the club. I mean, the reason I'm sympathetic with FSG, and like I said before, I'm not FSG and an FSG out. It's more the fact that they FSG don't make them mistakes. They're not the ones doing them. It's whatever people you've got dealing with the transfers. It's the like Michael Edwards is here in 2020. Why didn't he realise that we need, listen, this needs to happen? Why didn't Klopp say we're never going to get what we need out of Keita? Keita needs to be moved on, or if we can't sell him, we need to send him out on loan so he goes somewhere and he gets the message that he's not going to get a game yet. Same with Oxlade-Chamberlain. Chamberlain could have gone to Newcastle last January and wouldn't go. So what are you meant to do? I think part of the problem is because we in general don't pay massive transfer fees. I think we overinflate our wages sometimes, and you've got people sat on wages there that won't get them anywhere else. Chamberlain's not going to get his money anywhere else. Keita isn't. Apparently Arthur's on 125k. He hasn't kicked the ball for us yet in anger, I don't think. That is our problem. So if you've got them players there, which, let's be honest, if you're talking numbers-wise, we aren't short of midfielders. We've got 9 midfielders, I think. You can't just keep stockpiling midfielders on top of midfielders and wages on top of wages. It doesn't work business-wise. It doesn't work logistically. The mistake they've made is not moving people on. So then, if they started the evolution back in 2020, say take one in and one out. So say Keita goes, you bring one in, then you sell Chamberlain the next window or the next summer, and then you bring somebody else in, and you bring more robust players in. I think that's another issue as well. When Klopp first came in, he was making signings. We were looking at the stats and how robust they were. Now every player we seem to come in just can't seem to land on it. We have players like Gini Wijnaldum who just didn't miss games. You've got players now who come in and they're picking up niggles all over the place. Something has gone wrong with our scouting system, I think. Especially when it comes to... I mean, I think the only midfielder who's signed over than Arthur in the past 3 years is Thiago. But like I said, there's a reason for that. The reason you can't do that is you can't stockpile midfielders and wages all the time. You can't do that. You can't run a business like that.
Who's providing those wages?
Who's providing the wages? Well, it's FSG, isn't it? But they've got to sign it. Someone else says there's somebody. John Henry doesn't know how much money a football player should be on. Somebody says to whoever, we need to pay them that. And then he just goes, yeah, Sam, you know what you're doing. because he doesn't. I don't think he even knows what he's doing with baseball. He's just a money man. He's just a very rich man who wants to own some businesses.
Do you think that's a part of the issue, then?
That's why we need to get rid of him.
I was going to say, do you think? Because I saw there was a big debate the other day, and there was someone saying that I think actually it was Chris and Paul when they dropped into that space the other day, and they were saying that Usman was trying to say that FSG need to have a general knowledge of football and of how to run a footballing business, and the lads were saying it's absolute nonsense. They're just there to provide the money, sign the checkbook, things like that. However, is there a side of the argument that modern football owners and coming into this new generation of spending money, that the heights we can do, that actually knowing more about football and knowing more about that side of things will actually increase your business knowledge? Because we're now talking ridiculous amounts of money, money that we've never even seen before. So if FSG, like you say before, Ian, if they know rather than not knowing that Arthur's on 124 grand, and if they know a little bit more about their general football knowledge, they think, I don't think we can sanction that, lads. Like, I know what you're trying to tell me, but £124,000 a week for a loan player is a lot of money. Do you think there's an argument that there should be a bit more of a general knowledge from your owners?
No, because what happens then is you get football owners that try and get too involved in the club, which I think is just as dangerous as somebody who doesn't know anything about the game. It's a hard one, isn't it? I mean, if you've got to get an owner in that knows a bit about football and he can help out, that's fine. But do you think you're going to get a manager like Klopp who's going to come and stay here for as long as he has? If he's got an owner in his ear going, no, we need to sign that player. No, I don't want that player that you want. We need to sign that player. No, you're not paying him that much. Klopp would be gone ages ago. You'd have gone, nah, see you later.
It's a good point, isn't it? Because you see the current situation with Chelsea, and I don't know about you, Damon, but they feel like owner signings more than manager signings a little bit.
I think it's always been like that at Chelsea. Anyway, Abramovich was a bit like that, wasn't he? Like,
yeah, maybe it's the culture of the club.
I think Torres was an Abramovich signing, wasn't he? But the difference now, though, is the fact that Chelsea, the owner just seems like he cares about what's going on the pitch, and he's happy to sanction these money. I mean, Chelsea just throwing money around at the moment. I wish we had at least 10% of what they're doing right now, because it wouldn't be bad. At top, that's just 10%. But an ownership that John Henry comes like once every season, doesn't he? It's normally towards the end of the season, like last home game of the season, something just to show his face. I don't think that's good enough. I'm not expecting it every week in Cop End, red Liverpool shirt on, scarf up in the air. It's not going to happen. But you got to show some sort of interest in your thing. But like Ian said, these businessmen across the pond, they don't really care. Apart from Todd Bowley now, who's shown a different light to that, to the American businessman. I don't think they really care about the actual the club. They just care. They care about it being a business. This is why they've made an unbelievable business venture. By the way, that buying it for 300 million, possibly selling it for 4 or 5 billion, is unbelievable business, and you got to applaud them for that.
But as far as business success goes, you don't get much better than that, do you?
No, not a chance. Not as a businessman. That's what they are, the businessman, and that's why we need to take back now. I won't say take back the club, but take back the right ownership of the club, because we don't want people that don't care about the club to own the club. We want someone that's going to come in, whether they still do care about business more than the football, but care a little bit more about the football. We need someone that's just going to be there saying, why is it performing on pitch? What has happened? What do we need to do to change things? At the moment, John Rainey is just sitting in America in a chair getting booed by Boston fans. And if Boston fans are turning on him, then something ain't right, because he clearly cares more about baseball than he does football. So if Boston fans can turn on him, I'm surprised the whole fan base hasn't turned on him yet.
I think it's a good point that a lot of people don't actually go over about the Boston Red Sox. And listen, like you say, even the Boston Red Sox won't be the forefront of his mind, because again, he is a money man. As much as he's from there, and I'm sure he supports them. And obviously, baseball is his love over football. The same way that if we went and owned an MLS side and we owned a baseball side, we'd probably all take more interest in the MLS side than we own a baseball side, because we're English and we prefer footy. But I think it's an issue sometimes that people gloss over, is that, like you say, if your own fans of something that you care about, where you're actively going and watching your own team are turning on you, then, you know, maybe that's why he avoids Liverpool, because he feels like he might get it in, you know, both sides of the neck kind of thing. And I argue on FSG's side that I think they could have actually made the relationship better with Liverpool fans and themselves if they had a better middleman. You know, like an American within the FSG setup who likes football. You know, even if you have to go out and source them and employ them, but they're there at every Liverpool game. You know, they're always making statements about the current situation of the club. They're always showing the face. They're always taking pictures with fans, things like that. You know, just to create that better middle ground, to create a better relationship. But like you say, we just feel like the forgotten child. You know what I mean? We feel like the middle child kind of thing, where it's like, oh yeah, well, they'll be all right, won't they? Do you get what I'm saying?
Can I be honest with you? I never want to hear from the owners. It bores me talking about them, mate. And the best owners, mate, they're never there. You don't know who they are, because the people start questioning them when they're there. When you start making mistakes and stuff like that, they should be there just to say, yeah, to Klopp, yeah, there you go. I'm going to sign that check for you. I don't need to know from John Henry. You know, if I never see John Henry again and FSG stay with us and we're successful for the next 5 years, I couldn't be bothered whether to see John or Linda. The owners are so far off at the back of my mind for them. The issue is right now is we're not playing well. We're not doing well on the pitch. That's when the issues come up. And like I said, I'm not saying FSG are faultless. They've made mistakes, and this is. They should know now that things aren't going right in Liverpool. So I think whether they make a visit or whether they might do the things in private, they might be on the phone to Klopp every single day. I don't know what happens.
Yeah.
I don't particularly care.
They're hanging the phone down, Ian. They're hanging the phone down. He's trying to call them, but they're just hanging the phone down every time. No money available.
You blocked Klopp's number.
Yeah. 70 million for Moyes' cassette. Said, mate. Bye-bye.
But yet the best owners for me, you never hear from them. You don't really know who they are. I'm not there for taking. I'm not one who wants pictures taken with owners and that. The only people who matter to me is Jurgen Klopp and the players on the pitch. I wasn't that bothered. I know everybody loved him, but I wasn't that bothered with Michael Edwards. I couldn't care less. Cheers for what you've done, mate. But he's part of a business part of the club. He's bringing money in and stuff like that. This is the part of football I don't like anymore. In the 90s and the 80s, we didn't know about this stuff. We didn't care. All we cared about was what was going on the pitch. If we weren't winning games, that was when we still spoke about football. We spoke about what was going on the pitch. We never spoke about the owners or anything like that. The first time I ever mentioned that the money or stuff like that in regards to Liverpool was I was a kid. I think I was 10, and the Anfield Road end was getting work done, and I think it was Mark Lawrenson on commentary, and it stuck. I don't know why this moment stuck in my head, but it stuck in my head, and it stayed there forever. It stayed there for like 30 years, and he said, Liverpool won't have as much to spend this year in the summer, or they won't have as much to spend this year because of the work they're doing on the stadium. And that was the first time I ever thought about Liverpool regarding money and transfers. It was just, as far as I was concerned as a kid, players came in. I never even knew how much they came in for. And that was the first time, and that was like something new to me.
Well. That's what's being said at the moment as well.
Yeah.
Building.
And you know what? That could be the plan. You know what? It could be the plan to let's get the new training thing. Let's get the new training thing built. That's built now. Let's get the crowd up the Anfield up as big as it can, and then we'll start blamming the money on the players, and that might be fine. But what you can't do is you can't neglect a full part of the pitch which is what's been done. I'm not sure whether it's neglect or arrogance. I'm not sure whether they thought Jordan Henderson was going to have legs for longer. I'm not sure whether they thought Naby Keita was suddenly going to wake up and be made of steel. I'm not sure whether they thought the same of Oxlade-Chamberlain. But somebody somewhere has not been paying attention. And that is criminal. That is something I can't do. That's not an FSG thing. That's a Liverpool thing. That we've all known that. We've all spoke about it for years. In the summer, when people were crying out saying we needed a midfield, I was trying to be objective, saying, well, no, because we've got loads of midfielders. Because we've got loads, we've got tons of them. The problem is they're all with physios and they're all in first aid getting fixed. But that was an oversight to have that many injury-prone players in one position of the pitch.
Do you think that's sort of like a sympathetic view, Damon, for FSG? And I know, obviously, like we say, they've got a part of sanctioning transfers, of course, but do you think Klopp and the recruitment team and the club as a whole have let them down this past 3-4 years and maybe put them into the spotlight more than they deserve?
I think they've made mistakes. They've definitely made mistakes, and they need criticising for it, like the recruitment staff, the Jurgen Klopp, and the backroom staff as general. But you got to look at who's overseeing all that. It's the owners. If you go out there to a supermarket and your owner's giving you a toy till instead of a normal till, the manager's not to fault, or the people that they're not to fault. They can't use the till properly because it's a toy from from toy shop. So it ultimately falls down to the owners. They're the ones that are paying the wages of the manager. They're the ones that are paying. Even if Jurgen Klopp is the worst manager and he drags us down and he constantly makes mistakes and he's dragging us down to the bottom half of the league, and he's still staying there, then that's on the owners as well, because owners aren't acting quickly enough. Everything all roots back to the owners. Throughout the football club, they're the ones that are paying the wages. They're the ones that are accepting this sort of standard. They're the ones that are accepting this sort of ambition and drop off. They know whether I know they don't really care about the club as much as I want them to, but they know what's going on. They can see. Surely they know what's going on. They might get a text every now and then, lost again. You know what I'm saying? They've got internet over there, so they can see. They can see what's happening. So they must question themselves. If your business is dropping down and it's starting to fail in store, going back to the supermarket analogy, you're gonna start. You wanting to go as an owner. You're gonna go wanting to go in and say, well, what's going on here? What's going on here? And what do I need to do? And because he's not doing that, then I just don't think he cares about what's going on. As long as he makes that profit at the end of, whether
I think that's a fair point, isn't it? Because you see a lot of people go, well, he's about to lose Champions League money. And like you say, he'll know that. But if he's still looking at his books and he's still making a lot of money, Champions League money or not, he's probably going to see, well, Moises Caicedo, for example, is a £60 million investment. That is £60 million that I sanction disappears straight away. It's gone, regardless. He'll see it as like, is that £60 million giving me a better chance of getting the £100 million that I get for the Champions League revenue, therefore making a £40 million profit? Well, the team is sitting 9th, 10 points behind. It still take drastic improvement and players coming back from injury and whatever. This is his advisors, by the way. So they'll say that all of a sudden that your chances of making that £40 million on that signing is 30%. And as the spreadsheets show, and as the businessmen look at it, they'll go, "Well, I'm not going to sanction a 30% winning bet. That's absolutely ludicrous." And I think it's a very good analogy of using the till of that. Maybe that is the defense of Jurgen Klopp and his recruitment team of that. Well, you're not giving me the gambles that I can take if I was a Manchester City manager or I was a Newcastle manager. If I'm the manager of Manchester City and I want to take a gamble on Shoreham and it doesn't work, what's 40 million? Whereas Klopp and his recruitment team are put under a scrutiny in the sense of you have to have a 99% hit rate or else things like exactly what are happening now happen, don't they? Because that's
why that's the right play at the right money all the time.
Yeah, and like you say, it's because of the stringent rules that FSG put on the Klopp, the recruitment team, and in the finances that we have. So with that, then. because we all. I'm sure top Reds, bottom Reds, whatever you want to call the shite. I'm sure we can all agree that the club needs to change its model of how we do things. And I'm going to use air quotes here because I don't believe in it all, but do top Reds need to be more ambitious in the sense of how we go forward? Do they need to stop using, I saw the Roy Hodgson era, like, do they need to stop using that as a badge of honour and be coming over to the FSG outside a little bit more? Or do you think they're fine where they are, Ian?
I don't think we're lacking ambition, those top Reds. I think we're just willing to graft a little bit more. I think we realise that football isn't Football Manager, and Liverpool. One of the things we're very proud of at Liverpool is we do things a certain way. We don't just splash £60 million on a fullback if one doesn't work out 12 months before. It's not what we do.
Yeah.
But this isn't a conversation now. The conversation now is that we're not talking about not spending 60 million on fullbacks. We're talking about why hasn't the midfield been replaced, and that has been overseen by FSG. My issue is as well is that we keep, like, we've signed Luis Diaz and we've signed Nunes for what would end up being about 130 million if they get the bonuses and they get the payout, if they get the add-ons and stuff. And I love both of them. I absolutely love both of them. I'm glad we've got both of them. But would we not have been better bringing in a top-class midfielder instead of one of them? Would we not be in a better place if we brought in another midfielder?
But
I just think the decisions are being made wrong. What
would FSG sanction? Would they sanction a £60 million, £70 million midfielder, or would they sanction a cheap upcoming world-class talent in Gakpo? They're businessmen, mate. They're always going to sanction the cheaper option. That's what they're going to do as a business. No one ever chooses the most expensive option. So I think Klopp's then got to say it's either Gakpo or nothing, because if they're not going to sanction a midfield, it's either Gakpo or nothing. And if it was nothing, then we're still playing Oxlade-Chamberlain left wing until Diaz and Jota comes back. Yeah, but that's only down to injuries. What happens when everybody comes back? Gakpo will be looking to get on the bench. Oh yeah, unless we change formation. Like I can't see Klopp staging from the 4-3-3, which that's a totally different show, because I think he needs to move away from the 4-3-3 now. But like people are slating Gakpo already, and you've got to realise that Liverpool team he's walked into isn't ready for a new player who doesn't know the system. It's not ready for it. But I just don't. I can't see the minutes he gets, especially if we keep him Bobby in the summer, which I think we are. I think we'll keep Bobby for another 12 months.
I think, like you say, it's a completely separate show, and judging Cody Gakpo right now is ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. And I think everyone can agree with that. Well, I'd hope to think everyone can agree that judging a player after less than 1,000 minutes for Liverpool Football Club, it's silly. But I want to come back to those. Like, Cody Gakpo was branded as an opportunistic. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, opportunistic signing because was available for a lower fee than what he was in the summer because of PSV's money issues. Manchester United were looking like they were going to be increasing their sort of run for him and trying to line up a deal for the summer. So we saw an opportunity and we went for it. However, my issue is, and again, I'm not top Red FSG or anything like that, I'm balanced, but my view is, why is everything an opportunistic signing, Damon? Like, I don't get why we're such a big club and everything has to be right. Well, that's a good opportunity. It's like me buying clothes, but only waiting for them to come on sale, or only waiting for ASOS to give out a sale code. And that's not an ASOS plug, by the way. But nothing. It's like being like, oh, ASOS have got a code up right now. Go and get that jumper. Well, you could have got it 4 weeks ago for the wedding that you needed it for, or whatever. It's like, I know, but I wanted to wait for that 10% off code.
You just got a cold because you didn't get that jumper. You just got a cold. You're ill for 2 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Do you get what I mean? Like, Why are we in this situation where we have to wait for opportunities rather than going and making our own opportunities?
Bargain bin FC, innit? It's you know them people that wait in the supermarket for bargains to come out and they're there, and the trolley gets pushed out with they're all rushing in and fighting. That's John Henry. That's John Henry fighting.
That explains the Cody Gakpo thing. It was the Boxing Day sale. That explains it now.
Rushing in 40% off, and John Henry's like licking his. That's what Jurgen Klopp would have rang up and said, "Look, I need midfield. You know, how much do you need for the midfielder? 60, 70 million for Caicedo, for example. We can't sanction that. You know, we're skint at the moment. We've just had Christmas. You know, COVID still hit us really hard at the moment. We're still trying to pay back for COVID, so we should have furloughed the staff. I mean, if we furloughed the staff, we would be out of a better transfer budget right now. I keep going back to thinking about that.
That's how they work.
And he's gone, you know, and he knows that he needs a forward because of the injuries to Diaz and Jota. He can't keep playing Oxlade-Chamberlain left wing. It is just no. But I think he saw that Gakpo at that price and he thought, you know, Man United going for him. We don't want to lose out. You know, a bit like they did with Diaz last season. They only went for him when Tottenham went for him. They didn't want to lose out to him. Yeah. You know, Diaz was on their radar for a long time, and as soon as Tottenham went in for him, bear in mind, Diaz was meant to be a summer signing, and if Tottenham didn't move, Diaz would have been waited. But why do we have to wait? Like you said, it's not too signing because Tottenham went in for him.
Because we're reactive, we're not proactive in the transfer market.
But that again comes back down to FSG as well because they're happy to wait because they don't want to pay the money out. But the Klopp will say, but he's about to go to Tottenham. Oh, go on then. You can have the last fight.
I think
the danger we're bringing with once, like I said to Damon off here before we went on air, is I'm very much a believer of better the devil, you know, right? So that is my rather lame argument for just keeping FSG for now, if they're not going to evolve the model, right? But if FSG go, right, and we bring another owners in, and owners keep the same team there who are looking over transfers and stuff like that, the new owners aren't going to be proactive in the transfer market. That's not their job. The people below them will probably stay the same. The only difference is when you go, they might be willing to spend a little bit more. But is that the issue? Do we know that's the issue? Is the issue that we won't spend the money, or is the issue that we just don't want to sign the players? That's something we don't know about.
I think if you keep going over like the reports of like again coming out with James Pearce, was it yesterday or the day before, talking about COVID, so it's still using the COVID excuse tells you, I think, a lot more than what you know that we need to know. I think that is telling you basically, look, we're not providing the money because COVID still hit us. Like we're the only club in the world that's been hit by COVID.
You know the opportunistic signings. Do you think it actually spells to us more just how tight the budget really is? Like before we started making these opportunistic signings, the Van Dijks, the Alissons, the Gini Wijnaldums, things like that, they all came from sell to buy. The sell to buy model when he first started, like you said, was really good because Klopp would develop assets, sell them for decent money, buy better assets, so on and so forth. 2019, we win the Champions League, we outgrow that FSG model, and since then it has been opportunistic signings. Do you think that actually shows you just how stingy these guys, you know, really are? And I don't want to say it in like a nasty way, but because again, they're businessmen and they want to keep everything in the green. But do you think it shows just how little they want to invest into Liverpool Football Club when it's like, right, well, we've now no longer got any assets to sell because the assets we did have, we've put on high wages that we can't get them out, or the assets that we have got to sell, you like Kelleher potentially, can't be going during this window. Do you think that these opportunistic signings show just how little money they really have? They don't want to spend money.
No. They don't want to do it. But part of the problem is clubs got onto Liverpool now. Nobody's paying us £20 million for Solanke anymore. No one's giving us £50 million for Jordan Ibe anymore. That doesn't happen anymore. Like Nat Phillips.
We ain't got Mike Edwards for that. I said he was a magician. He made that sell to buy work. Like
if Nat Phillips goes in this window now, I think he's still got 3.5 years on his contract. He's going to go for less than £10 million.
Yeah, there was reports yesterday, weren't there, that Bournemouth is the only offer on the table at the moment with £5 million, and Liverpool are holding out for double, so 8 million plus add-ons. And
at least it's Bournemouth. At least it's Bournemouth. There's hope that we could get that 20-50 million off them.
Well, yeah, that's true. 5 million off of raising to 35 after add-ons of scoring a goal. But I see a really good point, that Ian, is that sell to buy works so well, and we had so many clubs pants down to the point of where clubs are probably now a bit apprehensive to work with us in the sense of like, well, you're making a turd look like a gold bar here, and then when we get it, we actually realise, well, it is a turd. So I think it is a good point that your sell to buy model actually even decreases even more with the success it has, which is mental because I suppose again that's just the way it works, isn't it? But before we're going to move away slightly from that and talking about FSG and their model and things like that. I want to talk about last Saturday, so Liverpool versus Chelsea. I went down to the game because I wanted to see these protests. Now, Cop Connections put out a tweet, and obviously they were arranging it on the Friday night. I messaged them, and I said, "Are you going to be spearheading the protest in person?" They said, "Yeah, we are, mate." And I said, "Sound." I said, "I'm going down. I'm going to make a little video for my little YouTube channel. Are we all right getting a little interview so you can tell me about what the protest is really for?" I got ghosted. They blanked me, absolutely aired me. And then obviously I went down, and there was no protests. And I want to put that question to you because I saw them get ridiculed a lot. I saw the idea of a protest. I saw it got ridiculed a lot on Twitter. I think Andy Heaton put out a tweet being like, where the protests and stuff. And I thought it was a little bit harsh to be like that because no one's actually told us yet the substance of these protests. So I want to put the questions to you to argue both aspects. Is that what's needed now? Do we need protests to get these owners out of the football club?
I don't think we're at that stage yet, but I think part of the problem is now, right, is that as a club, we've ridiculed Manchester United's protests for the past 2 years over how they only protest when United are doing shite. If we do a protest now, we're only doing a protest because Liverpool are playing shite. Where were the talks of the protests when we were round about Wembley last season? There was no talk of them then. There was nothing. If you're going to do a protest, you don't just go out on the whim and do it. It's got to be properly organised, and you've got to have a proper definitive ending to your protest and what you want. There needs to be a proper plan for it. So at the moment, what are we protesting? We're protesting the FSG don't put enough money in. They don't spend enough money on transfers, right? And I get that. I understand people don't. I understand that is why we want them out. Man United's stadium is falling apart, literally falling apart. The roof's about to come down. They're taking money out of the club, left, right, and centre. And I take the piss out of United because I go, "You don't want your owners out. You just spent £100 million on Anthony." So they need new owners more than we do. Manchester United definitely need new owners more than we do. Don't get me wrong. I'm like I said, if FSG need to change their model or they need to go, that is where I stand. I'm not FSG out or in. I'm in. FSG need to do something different or they need to go. But right now, as far as protests go, if Man United can only be bothered doing it when they're not playing well, I don't see why we should be doing it right now because I don't think we've got to that stage where we need to protest. I know other people think different, and I'm a 40-year-old man. I understand people will disagree with me, and I'm all right with that. I'm okay. I totally understand that. But I just don't think there's a need for protest yet. I don't think things are that bad for us.
What do you think, Damon? Do you think there should be protests?
It's a tricky one for me because I've been criticising FSG for like 2-3 years now. So it's not new to me. It's not new to me. It's just a lot of people are joining now the bandwagon. They're seeing what I saw coming like 2-3 years ago. I knew it would come in, unless they changed the model. And I said that after I was on our YouTube, our LFC YouTube after the Champions League final, and I said we can't.
Yeah, I've seen the clip. Yeah.
Put off FSG's head because as soon as we do, we're going to drop. That is exactly what's happened this season, and I knew it was coming. I've been calling it for. I wrote an article about a year and a half ago. I think it was in October. I think I did like an Halloween special and sort of did like Jurgen Klopp being the mask for FSG. And if you take the mask off, you won't like what you see, sort of thing, you know. But it was a real, like, I looked into depth, and all I got from it wasn't as FSG out back then as what it is now. But I got a lot of abuse from certain fans, and even like blue tickers saying like, all I want is negative. It's like, no, I'm just looking at a situation here. I believe that could really hurt us, and it's come to fruition now. It's come to fruition now. Sorry, and so protest to me, I think it's too late. I don't know if it's too late to push these out now. I think the protests are now not about getting FSG out. I think it's about getting FSG out quicker than they wanted to. And the fact that they're happy to sell minority, I don't think we want that anymore. No, do not want. And, you know, they're reported to be wanting the minority shareholder over the full takeover. And that's what we don't want, because it's just going to be the same again. They've had years and years. I said in that article, actually, a year and a half ago, that I'm willing to give FSG time to change. I'm willing to give them time to change the model. I wasn't fully FSG out back then, but they've had time, and they're not going to do it. They've shown their true colours. They're not going to change their model, and it's better to get them out now before it's too late.
Listen, if they're not, really, sorry to butt in, but if they're not changing it in this January transfer window when we're ninth and we've got glaring issues, they're not changing either. They're not. They're simply not. And how can you tell someone to change their strategy when they're about to sell something for a enormous amount of profit?
Well, this is what I don't get. Why have we gone so heavy with FSG out now when they're looking like they're trying to sell the club anyway?
I think
like Damon says, I think it's about speeding up, isn't it?
They wanted a minority more.
You don't speak to the people you're speaking to if it's a minority thing. I think they're looking for the full sell. That's my personal opinion. I think they're on the way out anyway.
It's hard. It is hard to.
The problem is, I don't like how they've dealt with it. The moment they started making it public and started saying we're looking for investors and we might be selling and might be doing this and that, all uncertainty around the club came out. We didn't need to know. It should have been a case of Liverpool are looking to sell or looking for investors the day before the deal was done. By what they've done, they've took. I mean, we're already having a bad time anyway because of our form on the pitch, but they've made things 10 times worse now because there's that much uncertainty around the club now. Not only are we playing poorly on the pitch, there's uncertainty all around the club. Like, who's going to own us at the end of the season? It's still going to be FSG, or is somebody else going to come on with a minority stake, or is it's going to be owners from Russia? It's going to be owners from Qatar? It's going to be owners from... We don't know. We don't know what our state of our club is going to be at the end of this season. Nobody knows because of the uncertainty around the club, which straight away makes fans on edge anyway. So the whole fan base right now, whereas we just used to say that midfielder needs to go now, right? We're talking about 200 different things that are wrong with the club right now. Right now, there's something wrong with this club, and there's many things wrong with this club. Sorry, I should say, and that's all we're discussing right now. And the fans are letting their frustrations go. Some of them letting it go in a good way, some of them letting it go in a bad way. And I've got sympathy for every single one of them. Right now, I 100% have. Whether you want to call me a top red or not, I understand how you're feeling. It's just I put it out there in a different way. But there's something categorically wrong with our club right now, on the pitch and off the pitch.
I think you're absolutely spot on, and the timing of them coming public with it seems even worse now when we look back, because it came out and then all these hierarchy departures came out, the club doctor leaving, head of analysis leaving and things like that. And it was like, whoa. You've put the club up for sale and now all of a sudden we've got all these people leaving. For all we know, they could have told the club 6 months ago that they were handing in the notice. However, the timing of it all just felt so peculiar, didn't it? And I think I completely agree with you that they've handled that situation of putting the club up for sale so poorly. And the minority investment, this talk, isn't there, that they still want to hold a minority until they complete this? Is it Are they after an NFL franchise now or something, or a baseball franchise, something like that?
NBA, weren't they?
Oh yes, basketball. Yeah, basketball. Yeah. So they're after a basketball franchise, and apparently they want to hold the minority in Liverpool until that happens. And and I'm sure there'll be people out there who would be happy to go 70-30 for a little bit. However, they seem to still want to hold that 51 over the 49%, don't they? And does the protest put enough fan pressure on them to go the other way, and then they hold 49 and someone holds 51, Damon?
I think that's what the protest really should be for now.
Yeah.
Is pushing to that edge of, we don't want you to have a minority, we just want you to go now. Either have less share in it or just completely full sale. And then I think that's what the protest should be for now, is to get them out, as in not owning the club fully. And it's just frustrating, isn't it? A minority shareholder coming in would just pay for transfers, and that's just what on earth? Who's going to come in just to pay for transfers?
It's like us having a car that we need. It's like us buying a Ferrari that needs being done up for us to then drive around. It's like, can you do me a favor? Can you just give me all this money interest free? I'll do my Ferrari up. Yeah. Can you pay for the fuel, pay for my insurance, pay for my tax, pay for all the bodywork?
I'll give you a lift every now and then, but that's about
it. I'm not even giving you that. I'll send you a photo of how nice my shiny Ferrari is that you paid for. But I think there is also a case of there will be a game to play for this, so there will be articles that come out, and there'll be stories that come out, and there'll be news that gets fed through media journalists and things like that are completely false, but it's part of the dance of obviously, getting rid of this asset that you're trying to get rid of.
I think we're pretty close to them going. I don't think the SOS do what they do without something happening. I think something's happening close. They've reacted to something there. Spirit of Shankly.
I completely agree. I saw a few people yesterday on Twitter who were like, "Well, they're only a fan unit." It's like, right, but they're very intertwined in the club. For them to come out and make a statement so strong like that, albeit they didn't mention Qataris and they're not racist and all this bull crap, but for them to put out a statement that all of a sudden now they want harder governing bodies, when it comes to takeovers. I agree. I said it in a personal group chat of mine. It feels like they've heard something, or they've had some information fed to them of like, oh, right, okay, well, it's a little bit closer than what we think here. Maybe something needs to change. But speaking of Spirit of Shankly, I'm going to bring this comment up because it brings us on to our next topic. Qatar QIA just take over LFC and cancel Anfield Wrap, RedMenTV, which means Ian's out of a job, and SOS. Now, first of all, the comment's absolute nonsense. I just want to bring it up because it brings us on to our next topic of what's been happening in Twitter and the fan base. And it's going to be our end topic of who is to blame, right? Who is to blame for this tearing away of the fan base? And I don't necessarily want it to just be like, well, FSG did it because everything boils down from them. I want specific instances and specific things of like, why have we come to where we've come, Ian? Like, why are we having comments like that of saying cancel fan channels, cancel Spirit of Shankly? Like, how's the fan base become so divided?
There's two reasons. The first one is like the likes of yourself, and the likes of the RedMenTV, and the likes of the Anfield Wrap got up their arses, wanted to create something, and they did it. There's people out there who've got the same opinions, who've got the same knowledge, got the same passion for the club, but they don't want to do it. They don't want to go through the time setting up a camera. They don't want to go through, and they don't want to do these things. If they wanted to do these things and air them to the public, they're well within the right to do it. We're acting like the Anfield Wrap and the Red Men and whatever have just done all this stuff by accident, and they've got lucky, and they've all worked very hard. And I'm not just saying that because I've been privileged enough to be on the RedMenTV. They put a lot of work into what they do. I go in there and see it, and the passion they have for the club. They're just as passionate as anyone, but at the same time, they don't consider themselves better fans than anybody else. I think part of the problem is the guy who wants to call them but won't do it himself, sits there and he goes, he thinks he's my voice. He thinks he's my voice. The guy from the Anfield Rap thinks he's my voice. The guy from the RedMenTV thinks they don't think they're his voice. That's his opinions. That's the guy off the Anfield Rap's opinions. That's the guy off RedMenTV's opinions. That's the guy off For the Reds opinions. That's just him earning his opinions. And because he's got a platform, because he's earned followers and he's earned viewers and he's put work into it and he's been going on for 3 years, you're just more likely to see us. You can start up and build your way up, and then you can have your say and you can say whatever you want. That's all it is. They think that they're going out there intentionally trying to be the voice of that person, which the person who's saying it he does not want to do that. You've got your own YouTube channel. Do you think you're the voice of the fan base?
Well, I am simply for the Reds. I'm the voice of
that's your opinion.
Yeah, my voice comes out of me because it's how my brain thinks.
So if I go on the RedMenTV, that's just my opinion. When Paul speaks, that's Paul's opinion. When Chris speaks, that's his opinion. When Gareth was speaking, that was his opinion. When whoever speaks, that is their opinion. That is not the opinion of the fan base. It just so happens because of the work they do, they get invited onto certain things, like the Anfield Rat get invited onto Sky. Paul has been on the Overlap. That doesn't mean that he chooses to be the voice of the fan base. That is that they've chosen him to go on.
Do you think?
And I think that is where the issue comes. They think that Paul thinks he's our voice.
Yeah.
I talked to Paul, and he doesn't think that whatsoever.
I think, again, and I'm sure you agree, Damo, I don't think Paul thinks he's the voice of a global fan base. However, is there an argument for, with that added following, there becomes an added responsibility, or do you think it's unfair to judge them like that?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a middle ground, doesn't there? I think a lot of people don't use these, and certainly not this. And they just throw abuse out. I'm talking both sides. Because I felt for RedMenTV, I felt for Paul and Chris the other day, the abuse they suffered in terms of what they said and things like that. And they said, there's abuse out there. The FSG out has come up here. I've been on the other end of it. I've been FSG out, and I've had abuse from people that just love FSG. So it's from both sides. But you're going to get people like this in real life. These are real people. People go through things and they deal with things, situations differently. You're going to get trolls online. You've got to expect it. And I'm not really bothered about people coming for me. And, as soon as I start coming to like swear words and things like proper abuse, then I just block them anyway. Because it's like, you're losing your argument. And this is why I listened to the Spaces the other day, actually. Sam won it. Sam was in it, and then Paul and Chris came in, didn't they? Yeah. And I started listening to a Sam Space afterwards, and they went through the clip again, what I've said, and I think I just don't think both sets of fans sort of like listen to each other, and obviously Paul and Chris has gone in there with a different mindset because they've probably been abused from certain people over and over and over again, probably tired of it, so they've gone in there already thinking, these are,
you're already on the defensive, aren't you? Yeah, you're
right. And I think Paul said something he shouldn't have said about I think they said something like, because the Sam wants Qataris, and they said something like do you agree with what they do to gays and trans and things like that, which he shouldn't have said that. It's not a political sort of thing. But when you say things like that and you're saying abuse, your whole point is getting missed, and that's what's going wrong with this fan base at the moment. Because you're arguing one side and you're throwing abuse. If you just sit down and listen to each other the way we are doing right now, you hear each other's points. And you sort of like understand the other person's point of view, and you begin to understand why they think the way they think. Rather than
do you think they're willing to do that, though? Do you think they're willing to listen, or is it all agenda fueled?
Can I just say, just before you butt in, so RedMenTV, I don't know about the other guy, but RedMenTV, and I'm sure Damo knows him, there's been somebody who's been golding RedMenTV now for about 18 months. Every video he does, he talks about them and slags them off, and he's never responded at all, ever. I was asleep, so I missed the space, but I know he was in the space, that person, and I know he was gunning for the RedMenTV again. So what's happened is he's been angry because whatever show he does, he's just angry. He's a confrontational guy. So much so that I've now blocked him off Twitter. He's very confrontational. So 2 guys have come in, Chris and Paul, and like I said, I didn't listen, so this is just what I'm assuming has happened. So they've come in ready for that confrontation.
Battle, yeah.
They've come right in on the defensive straight away. He's always on the defensive. And in general, if you've ever been in a space with him, he never lets anybody finish, never lets anybody speak. I don't get into a conversation with him.
But,
and so there, you've just had the perfect storm. And what's happened is, normally when you have a space, I don't listen to them. I only listen to the Everton ones, because the Everton ones are far more entertaining than the Liverpool ones.
Hey, there's a certain good space that's coming out this weekend at some point tomorrow. So about that.
Yeah,
I'll be on there.
But in general, I don't listen to them. Your spaces are the first ones I've gone into this week and gone in and not come out within 2 minutes, because there's actual adult discussion in there. You go in, the Everton ones are quite good. They let people speak, and that's why I go in there. Don't get me wrong, they're funny because of what they're going on about, but they let people speak. In the Liverpool one, the ones that I go into, they're just kids arguing. It's proper. It's embarrassing at times. And what's happened on, was it Wednesday? That is over spilled onto Twitter. It's just the perfect storm has hit. That's gone onto Twitter, and that's what's all gone. When you're on the defensive, you don't think about what you're saying. You just throw your punts, and sometimes you'll say something that you would never ever normally say. Like I said, I've not heard any of that space. Nobody even told me what's going on. I've not even messaged Paul or Chris to find out, because I want to stay away from it. I don't want I've got my own stuff going on, because I tweeted something stupid myself, and I'm still dealing with that right now. But that's what's happened. It's just a perfect storm of 2 people, or 2 sets of people on the defensive. They've come in, perfect storm, gone over on, and it's all been over exaggerated. At the end of the day, it's just 3 people having a discussion.
I think. Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah, go on, Damon.
Regarding like what people's problem are now with RedMenTV, because there is a problem that people have with RedMenTV and Anfield Rap and things like that, and this is what I don't think got across, is because it's just shouting abuse and things like that. Instead of talking to them and saying, look, Paul and Chris, why did you do it this way? Why did you do this? Instead talking like adults. And I think it's just the fact that they haven't. You'll know more than me, and you're on RedMenTV quite a lot, so they haven't really questioned FSG as such. They haven't really looked into it as much as we want them to. Because I've done it for, like I said, I wrote an article a year and a half ago. So if I can sort of like as a journalist look back and question it and look into it, why can't the biggest Liverpool fan channel do that sort of thing? Anfield Rap again. I look at the interview they had with Pep Linders. And when Pep Linders says he's happy like 1 title or something like that, as a journalist, as a fan, I'd have been like, you what? What are you about? You happy with 1 title? This is a Liverpool Football Club. Why? I'd question him on that, because they're not questioning the people in there. It sort of looks from the outside they're sort of protecting themselves to keep that sort of exclusive in the club, and that's just going to piss people off, because people, as a journalist, and Paul and Chris have done unbelievable. So not original journalists, have they? But they've got into there and they've done as a fan channel. But they're now getting exclusive and things like that, but they're not doing, as a fan, they're not getting the right questions off to the right people, and that's what I'm trying to do now as myself. I've interviewed a Boston Red Sox fan. I'm going out there to really get the proper answers. I've interviewed a Boston Red Sox fan. I've interviewed fans. I've interviewed an FSG out, an FSG inner. I like to get the proper perspective of things, and I think that's where Redmen and Anfield haven't done. In a way,
can I just say I've been on the. Yeah, go ahead.
As much as they should have done.
Yeah, can I just say I was on the Redmen twice in December, and twice in 2 different shows. We had hour-long discussions on FSG and whether they should be there or not. The problem is I think both shows were behind the paywall. I think they were both on Redmen Plus. So they do discuss it. They do discuss FSG, and they do discuss the faults of FSG. It's just that people don't watch them shows. They watch the watch-alongs, which are on YouTube, and they watch the match build-up, where you never talk about off the field stuff really. All that stuff is either on the podcasts or on the debate shows and stuff like that, which is on Redmen Plus. But trust me, Redmen do discuss FSG and we do go into detail, and different people have got different opinions on them. That's what fan media is. People see the clips and they see the free stuff and they think that's what they're constantly doing, and they're not doing that.
I think that is a good point about the paywall and obviously the RedMenTV exclusives that they have on their own, their own website and the monthly subscriptions and that. And, if you are so Redmen out and Anfield Wrap out, then there's a good likelihood that you're not paying for exclusive access. So you're not going to see that kind of side. So I do get that. And I think there is also an argument of, well, if you do make things like that public, you are just opening yourself and your brand up for a world of abuse, regardless. So I can slightly sympathise with RedMenTV and the Anfield Wrap for not wanting to make an FSG and FSG out debate public because of what could come, the backlash. And there is a certain element, and I'm sure they'll admit it themselves to close friends and that behind closed doors, that you can't be taking away the exclusiveness that you get with Liverpool. You can't be taking away the coverage that you get within behind closed doors that other fan channels don't get, because they're a business now as well. They have people who work for them that rely on their wage to pay for their families, food and things like that. And I get that, and that is absolutely fine. But I also agree with Damo's aspect in the sense of, with that added following becomes an added responsibility. Yes, they show their own opinions, and yes, they show the opinions of their fans and their following, of course. But there is also a wider subject to this, isn't there? There is a case of, well, with your power, with your responsibility, could you argue for this side of the argument a little bit more in a public setting? And I'm not one to give the RedMenTV advice of how to go about their strategies, but I think RedMenTV Spaces could be a massive thing to bridge that gap between. Did
he try doing the Spaces for a bit? But like I said, they just turned into Barney's.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
Can I just say as well? So that space that was going on, that when Chris and Paul left, I then went in and I listened to like the last 5 minutes of it, because I'd just woken up. Because like I said, I've been at work. And then the people who were saying, who had just been arguing with them, and then they were calling them dickheads and calling them this and calling them that, then said to them, well, why don't you let us on our shows? Why would
you know what?
Why would you...
This is a very, very good point, Ian, because after Chris and Paul left, I actually got my chance to speak. And I said to them, to Hughesman and that, and I said, listen, I'm just trying to help you here. Listen to me. I said, for 6 months now, you've abused these blokes. They've come in on the defensive, of course, because of what's happened, but they've come in to try and have a conversation. They've ended up screaming and shouting. You've ended up screaming and shouting. And now you want exclusive access, and now you want to have a sit-down and adult conversation like we're having. I said, unfortunately, as adults, that's not how it works. I can't abuse you two on Twitter for 6 months and then go, do me a favour, boys, just come on this show for us. That's not going to work. I said, what you need to do is you need to be a bit more respectful over this next 6 to 8 weeks and try and build that relationship back, and then you might get that chance. And to be fair, the
space I had after, Ryan, they were talking about it again after, you see, Sam also one after, but people like, Thiago's father, and Mr. E, they were making good points in that space. They were telling Sam, look, you didn't, you abuse them this on, they come in defensive.
Exactly, and Thiago and Mr. E, I'm in a group chat with them. They do a lot on my spaces, and they do well in my spaces because it is, as you both know, it's an adult conversation. It's not a screaming and shouting match. And I tried to help them. To be fair, they changed the space's name from FSG MenTV back to RedMenTV. And literally for 5 seconds, they were like, we get that. And then is it Sam, Ian, the young scouser who does stuff with the RedMenTV? Yeah. He comes in. He's a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more shouty, a little bit less diplomatic than Chris and Paul. But literally, it was like his name just triggered them all, and then they just went right, bang, straight on the offensive again. Sam's here. Let's abuse. Let's do this. Let's do that. And I was like,
I saw something Sam actually the other day, which I didn't like. If I'm honest, I know he's part of TV. You probably know him Ian, and probably good mates with him. But you talk about the local fans and things, and about you can't compare local fans to fans across the world. And
do you agree with that, Damon?
No.
No. So you don't agree, which is fine. Did you respect his opinion though? And treat
you can't compare. There's a certain he said something like because you grew up in the city, you're affiliated to the club straight away, so it's a different love for the club than anyone across the world. I don't like that sort of blinkered view.
Yeah. So you don't agree with him, which I get, and that's absolutely fine. There was loads of people that didn't agree with him. However, the difference is yourself doesn't then go and disrespect him as a person.
No.
You don't start calling him a bellend. You don't start saying he's this. You don't start saying he's that. You just disagree with his opinion. Sound. Let's talk about it. However, it seems that in this spaces that we're on about and this person that we're on about, and I found it quite ironic that after the space, I think he tweeted out, or he might have done another space and he muted everyone and he was like, come on, guys, we need to keep it respectful. And I was like, I've been in your spaces for about 4 months now, and that's probably the most respectful thing you've said. There is a certain degree of this fan base that is being torn apart due to the lack of respect on both sides. You can go into some spaces where they are top Reds, and it's the exact same tribalism, the exact same agendas, the exact same gang mentality. And it's just that Hassans are a little bit bigger. They get more followers because negativity breeds better than positivity, as we all know. But surely if his intentions were to get the answers that he wants and do journalism the way that we're trying to do it, surely he'd realise the way of his errors and start to recycle, retrain, rebuild that relationship with the RedMenTV, and then get a proper video done. Do you get what I'm saying?
Are they willing to do that though? I don't know.
That's the question, isn't it? Is this agenda fueled, or is this about clout? Is this about gaining viewers, or is this a genuine argument of no? This is how we feel, and we're trying to get it across.
Yeah, I think with this certain person is he wants to be like an Anfield agenda and a Mark Goldbridge. He's going to get his views from extreme opinions. He's never going to sit on the fence. He's never going to not sit there and shout. And if that's the way he gets views, that's perfectly fine. If that's how he's making money, that's him. But he can't expect everybody to react the way he wants them to. He can't expect everybody to come in and get to his way of working. It doesn't work like that. And can I just say on the Sam tweet as well, that was a third tweet of a thread that is getting spewed out everywhere. The first two were talking about the politics in Liverpool. So the third tweet was about how you don't understand the politics in Liverpool because you don't live here. That's what the gist of it was. It's not about the bit on the top where he's put, why are they so desperate to be equal? That was the bit he put in, which goes on with the likes of certain people who quite aggressively say we're better fans than people over there because we get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're quite aggressive with that. But it was a political thing. It wasn't about you can't support Liverpool because you're not from Liverpool, because Sam's not like that. I spoke to him about it in the DMs. It was the third part. I think it was a 4-tweet thread. 1, 2, or 4 have not been retweeted anywhere, but the third one has, and the third one is what's got him a lot of crap, which is another downfall of Twitter. You should not be able to just be able to select a tweet from a thread and retweet it. If you're going to retweet a thread, you should have to retweet the whole thread. But that caused him a lot of crap the other day, and it was probably a little bit ill-advised, the wording, but if you read the whole thread, it's the people have just jumped on one tweet and a 4-tweet thread.
I think that's a good point, because there was a few people who I know and that who retweeted it and said, "We get your point. You've just worded it terribly," which is fine. Well, you boys will do it as older gentlemen, and I do it as a younger lad. That we all say stuff and do stuff, and we're like, shit, I'm not worded that the way I wanted to word it. I've not got that customer. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like I said, Damo obviously doesn't agree with the tweet, and there was loads of people that doesn't agree with the tweet. However, and this is where I feel sorry for Sam, is it weren't a disagreement with adult reasons. It was just, you're a bellend, you're this, you think you're a local knobhead, and I'm just like, well, what's the need for that? And I want to bring on to your point about Anfield Agenda, because they put out a video yesterday, and they put out a clip, and it was hit. I don't know his name. I think it might be Craig.
Craig.
Is it Craig, the older one, who does the majority of the watch-alongs, and the other lad does? Yeah. So he put out a tweet. So he put out this tweet of him in this little video clip, and he's talking about when he went to Anfield, and he says he goes to Anfield, and he was walking out of the ground, and some lads behind him from Liverpool heard that he had quite a thick Irish accent, and they've gone, that's why locals don't get to the game, because of fucking dickheads like you. And I was thinking to myself, you don't need to tell that story at this time. Whilst the fan base is where it is, and whilst the situation is where it is, and we need people to be of that kind of standing. We need them to be taking less sides, not picking a side. I just felt like that video and that whole tweet and that whole thing about it was just, you're just adding fuel to the fire. Do you get what I mean, Damon?
Yeah, it's sort of like it's again both sides saying, look, I'm better than you as a fan. You know, before I'm better than you as a fan. I'm FSG out, so I'm a better fan than you. There's no bridge that needs to fill the gap, and it's so frustrating to watch. And you see him every day. I see both sides of like, I'm FSG out, but I'm not going out there and abusing people that are FSG. And instead, I'll go out there and interview them. I'll question them. I did it with, I don't know if you know Scout Commie.
Oh yeah,
He's one that's come for me a few times. To be honest, not full on abuse, but he's questioned my intelligence. So I reached out to him. I said, look, do you want to do an interview? And I'll ask you about FSG. And I did an interview for him, and it was nice. But it was nice to challenge him as well on things that he said, and that's what it should be about. It's not about abuse, and it's about challenge. You can have different opinions. Me and him have different opinions about FSG right now, but with challenge each other, we can challenge each other, and you can still listen to each other and understand each other. You don't have to agree, and you certainly don't have to give abuse. I said to you earlier, as soon as I receive abuse, that's it. That's the argument's done. The argument, everything that we've just been arguing for the last half an hour.
You're proving the point.
Absolutely pointless.
Yeah. No, I think, like you say, we could probably sit here all day and argue that these people aren't looking for an adult conversation. They're not looking for what you call proper journalism. You know, they're not looking for that kind of substance. They're looking for their own personal gains, or it just is agenda fueled. And it's a shame, because with that added following, with that bigger stage that you do have that added responsibility, whether you like it or not. And I don't mean in the sense if you speak for Liverpool fans, I just mean you've got the power. Like, for example, our conversation tonight. If our conversation tonight was on a bigger channel with a more viewing, more following, it'd be so helpful in bridging that gap between the current issues in the fan base. And all it takes is one of those channels to do that, to help fix and repair, obviously what has been broken. But we could, like I said, we could sit here all night, and I'm not going to keep you all night. I thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, it's been a really good chat, and I think like Damon said the other day in DMs, it's something that's needed. It's something that's needed to be aired out, and hopefully, us three and the people that interact with us and follow us all continue to do what we're doing in our spaces and our YouTube channels and your articles and so on, and we'll keep it middle ground, and we'll keep it respectful, and we'll keep it adult, and eventually we will bridge that gap. But I don't know. It just feels like
what's going to sort all this trouble out? A trophy.
Hey, it out.
But then you can switch the PlayStation off after that, can't you? So it doesn't really sort it out fully, does it?
Yeah, you know what, you're right. I might just get on FIFA, put it on amateur, and just win loads of games. Hey, listen, beating Brighton on Sunday probably fixes a little bit of it, doesn't it, if we're going to be honest. So, anyway, anything from you, gents, before we go?
I'm looking forward to the Champions League to come back around, for when people don't have as much free time through the week to do all these spaces and have their arguments. Let's get playing on Tuesday and Wednesday again, and let's sort some shit out.
What about you, Damon? Anything from you?
Yeah, I think Ian should give a certain space a chance. Really, it's not all like that, Ian. You've just been getting into the wrong ones.
You need to get into the Liverpool transfer room ones and follow the Reds again. Is what we're saying. But yeah, honestly, like I said, gents, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a great conversation, and hopefully I'll have you on the channel again in the future. But thanks for everyone who watched and everyone who watches the recording after this. And we were on Twitter as well, and I think we got up to, I think it was 220 plus people on Twitter ended up seeing it, which is brilliant as well. So, you know, a lot of the fan base can hear our opinions and see what we're trying to do here. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. I'll see you all again soon. Ta-da!